What's up, guys? One Dirt Bike Boy here, just showing you what we're going to be doing with the Beamer. Putting the switch panel on with the start button. When you take your ignition switch apart, there's going to be 7 wires going to it. 2 of those aren't used. We're just going to use 5 of them, which is your power, ground, accessory, run, and start. And then you have your switch panel over here with the starter button. What we're going to do first is the main power from the ignition is going to go to the main on-off switch for the panel, which is here. That's where your power is going to go. Your ground is going to go to the ground, and then you have your 3 other wires left. One of those wires is going to go to the start button. The run wire is going to go to one toggle switch. Accessory is going to go to another toggle switch. With the start button, it's actually going to be both 2 positives here. Once you get those wired to the switches, you're going to have an empty spot on each switch and button. That's where you're going to take your accessory. Your accessory is going to go boom, boom, and boom. So you're going to wire everything together, and then it should start correctly. With this main switch here, this is going to have 3 prongs on it: positive, negative, and accessory. All the other switches is just going to have 2 prongs for each one. Alright, so now we're going to hop in the car and put it all together. Alright, so this is the ignition for the car. What I've done is already disconnected the ignition switch, which is this guy. Goes into the back of the ignition, the lock cylinder for the key. Once you disconnect this, boom, you're gonna have a bunch of wires, about 7 wires come out. What you want to do is cut the connection as close to the switch as possible, so that way you have this. You got your 7 wires just chilling there. This purple one, I don't know what happened with that guy, but so you want all these chilling, and then that's what we're going to use to wire in directly to the switch panel here. Okay, so now what I went ahead and done was I cut the wires off of the ignition switch, which I don't have it, I'll put it somewhere. Basically, when you cut it, you get these 7 wires. I took the little thread stuff like this off of it so that I can spread the wires apart. Then I took these connectors and crimped them on there. The reason I did that is, well, first I stripped them down to like this. The reason I put these on here is so that they don't touch each other when I'm trying to figure it out. So then basically I can wire my extensions onto this, crimp them on the other side, and run it over to the center console where my switch is going to be. So what I'll do next is run 6 wires. Well, actually no, I only need 5 wires. I'll run 5 wires through this underneath this center console, and then I'll crimp them into here and tuck this up under there, and then basically we'll have our 5 wires to work with already coming out of here. That way it's a little easier to maneuver. Alright, I'll check back with you once I do that. Alright, so what I've just done now is I've taken my wire, which I bought the wrong wire. It's 10 gauge. I didn't need 10 gauge. I really, ideally for this, you want like a 16 through 14. 10 is just a little too thick, and it's not really maneuverable. Let's see how thick it is. So I'll just have to trim some of that down when I go into the connectors. But what I've done was I cut 5 equal length pieces of wire from my 5 coming from the ignition switch. Don't mind these 2. These are extra. One of these is like the little chimer thing that lets you know you left your keys in ignition, and the other one is not used. I don't know why it's there. Just extra, because people like doing that. So I have my 5 connections here. I've ran my wires through, so they go in the center console. The switch panel is going to be right here. They come under. What I'm going to do is end up pulling them all the way in the back there, so you don't see them up here. Then I'll zip tie them together. But anyway, first things first, I'm going to connect these into here, and then I'll button this up to make it look pretty. Stick that back there, and then we can go ahead and start trimming down on this side. Just a note, when you run like this and do wires, when you put them through or fish them through here, make sure you cut them long, so that way You know, you can always trim them shorter if you need to, but it's just a pain to keep extending wire. So what I did was I cut them pretty long. I'm not going to need them this long, but I just did it so that way I can always trim the excess wire when I decide how that everything is going to be tucked correctly or how I want it. So I'll check back with you once I get everything connected. Okay, so what you see here, I've connected all my wires, my 10 gauge, to the wire that came out of the ignition switch. They run back there. See, my foot can still hit the gas, come up. It's not really affecting it. Now what I have to do is get this cover back on here, and then you'll never even know that the wires are like that. So where they come out at is back here. Now remember I was telling you guys about cutting the wires longer than you need it, so that way you know, you'd always have enough, you don't have to extend it. So this is too much wire down here. What I'm gonna do is probably cut it, because my panel's gonna go here. I'll probably cut the wires about right here. That way I can still move them around. Next, what we're gonna do is wire this sucker up and then make sure everything works. Once we get it wired up and it works, then I'll talk about how I'm gonna get it mounted to that thing. Okay, so here's another update. The way this switch works here, you have your main power switch, you have your start, and 3 accessories. The main power switch has 3 hookups on it. You got your 12 volt, your negative, and then your accessory, which says 20A, so 20 amp. What I do is I hook my ground coming from the ignition and the hot wire coming from the ignition to this main switch. From here, accessory, this is what I did. I took 3 wires, put them together in this one connector. What that's going to do is connect this accessory to 3 of my switches. So 3 of my switches are going to have a hot, and then on the other end of these switches, these toggle switches, it's going to be the little start, so the other side, so that when I arm the main switch here, each of these will have power, and then once I flip it, it's going to connect it and theoretically make that accessory work. So we're going to wire this up and see how it goes. We got a light, nothing up here. First switch, look at that, look at that, look at the action. Look at the action. Look at the action, all right. Second switch, hold up, look at that. Second switch, and check this out. My goodness. And then let's see.